Hi guys, I thought I would just sit out here with the chickens and talk to you a little bit. I know I've been missing in action for quite a little while now, probably close to a month. The garden was wrapping up and we took a little vacation. It was really good to get away, especially after the busy garden season we had had. And so we went to Lake of the Ozarks with some of my extended family, cousins, and it was a whole lot of fun. Very relaxing. We didn't do a lot. But then I came home, and while I was gone, the garden froze. It got down to, I think, 25 or 22 or something while we were gone. So most things were done. Some cold hardy things are still growing. But the majority of the garden, the zucchini, the tomatoes, the peppers, all of that stuff was just done. And I was done. And so it probably for 2 weeks, I really didn't want anything to do with the garden. We did do some clearing off work. We planted garlic. We did some things we had to do, but otherwise we focused on school, which kind of all the extras get ignored a little bit whenever we're in harvest season in the garden. And so maybe it's a little bit of burnout, but I just couldn't bring myself to do garden stuff or videos for a while. And I did take some footage, and I'll show you some of the stuff that we've done in those few weeks, but the emphasis has been more on at home, family, school, those sorts of things. But today, I really wanted to share this with you. I planned to share this with you all along. When I started my farm market stand, I had no idea how it would be received. And it's really kind of scary to put yourself out there to be like, here's what I'm offering, are you interested? And I had no idea how it would be received by our community, if it would be successful, if anything would sell at all. I feel like everybody can grow a garden here in Nebraska, but the reality is, not everybody wants to, not everybody has the space, not everybody has the time, not everybody, even has any desire to do that. But most people do like to eat vegetables, especially if they're homegrown. They just taste better, they're healthier for you. So I hoped. But I also had, you all know that inflation is being very difficult, and my husband's job has not given him any sort of raise to keep up with inflation. His job has not kept up with inflation. In fact, they raised our insurance costs, so we're actually taking home less money than we were at the start of COVID, and that puts a strain on our budget, and we didn't really want to change jobs. And so the question is, how are we going to make our money stretch farther? And so I knew I wanted to increase the garden because our groceries is probably the biggest chunk of our budget and the hardest for me to keep in budget. And so by growing a bigger garden, I was hoping that would help with our grocery bill. But I also thought that by selling our extra produce, or the best of our produce, that it would help to pay for the garden, because gardening does cost money. It's not free as much as you're growing your own food. There's a lot of expenses that do go into it. And so I thought I might be able to offset some of the gardening costs by selling some of my produce to the community. I also hope that people would like to have access to some of that fresh produce, and they can see where it's grown as they drive by our house. The garden's right there, and our property down the road, they drive by that one too. They can see where it's grown. So that was one of the primary reasons that I wanted to do the market stand and increase my garden. Also, by having the market stand, it kept me accountable, and I knew that I would, if I told people I was going to have produce out of my stand every day, I was going to have it out of my stand every day. Whereas if it was just my garden, some mornings I wake up and not be interested in going out to the garden, or get kind of burnt out and just let it go to waste. And I hoped that that would keep me from having anything go to waste. So those are my goals to set out, and now we have the results, because the market stand is done, and I'm really pleased with how well the community accepted it. They were super encouraging. I had people right off the bat who were contacting me on Facebook and just seemed excited about what I was doing. People bought my produce. Not a single person complained. And produce is one of those things that it can go bad, can have a soft spot, can have bug bites. It sits out there in the sun, which I try my best with the coolers and whatnot to keep it good quality, but sometimes when it sits out there all day, it's produce. It spoils rather quickly. But I think everyone knew exactly what they were getting, and nobody complained. Everyone was happy with my produce, which felt really good to me. I know eventually somebody will complain, and it just happens. But I like to please people, and so it was really good for my first year that nobody had any problems with it. The garden, it did keep me accountable. I got out there in my garden every single morning, even in the rain, and made sure, except for Sundays, I took Sundays off, but I made sure that I had produce at my stand every day, and nothing went to waste. We always had fresh produce in our kitchen. It was already harvested, it was ready to go. There was no excuse to not go pick it because it was too hard and eat something else. It definitely made me utilize my garden to its full extent. We also had fresh food, fresh homegrown food on our table almost every single meal, which was just, it was wonderful. And the kids loved to eat it because they grew it, or they watched it grow, or they helped with a lot of it. And so they ate so many more vegetables than I think it would have gotten them to eat had they not participated. And it's always been that way, but we added more in our garden this year and they kept eating it. Having some chicken problems, aren't we, Safi? Okay, as far as lowering the grocery bills, during the 2 months of like August and September when we had the most coming in from the garden, my grocery bill was easily cut in half, which was amazing. And then the other months, it definitely, Safi's sitting on my notebook where I have my notes written down, but it lowered my groceries for numerous months, probably 6 months, and 2 of them definitely cut it in half. Now we love dairy, we love milk and cheese and butter and yogurt and all that stuff, so we definitely had that cost, that expense too. But I didn't have to buy any fresh produce at the store, and that could be pretty expensive, especially like organic, which I don't normally buy, but my garden is organic. Like, I don't have a classification that is organic, but I don't use any chemicals, any pesticides, I use compost, no fertilizer, you know, anything, it's organic. that's all it is. So it was great food and it lowered my grocery bill. And then the number you're probably all waiting for is how much did I earn from my farm stand and my one subscriber who got an order of groceries weekly from me. The total number is $1,500.60. So pretty much $1,500. And I'm very happy with that number. Did that pay for itself? Well, no, there's actually a lot of expenses that go into the garden, especially growing it into a market garden. For the first time this year, there was fuel to run the dump truck that brought the compost and the mulch for my beds. And I'm gonna move Safi because she's got my list here so I don't forget. The plants and the seeds cost money. That's probably one of the smaller costs, but the cost of plants are going up. We planted 5 apple trees this year, and they are about $25, I think, to $30 each. So that goes up. We had the Agribon, which is the row cover for like frost and insects. We also had bird netting for the strawberries, the weed barrier to put down on the strawberries. I had my grow light set up to start my seeds indoors. All my seed starting trays and the seed starting soil I used, all the packaging and containers that I had to put my produce in out at the stand. And of course I did pay my kids for some of their help in the garden. Not as much as I'd like to pay them, but I was able to share some of that with them since they helped in the work. And so all those things add up. However, most of those things are good for numerous years. The seed starting setup with my grow lights and all that, that'll be good for many years. I have enough packaging and containers to go into next year. I don't think I have to buy any of those. All my seed starting trays can be reused. The bird netting and the Agribon and the weed barrier, all of that stuff can be reused. So a lot of that was initial expenses that won't go forward. So overall, $1,500 plus cutting my grocery bills down, having healthier food available for so much of the year. It was definitely worth it, and I definitely plan to do it again. It was a lot of work every morning, so going forward we might make some changes to how many days a week my stand is open, just so I have freedom to live life too and really invest in my kids. And I really appreciate all of my customers, the people who kept me going. And there were days when I'm like, I'm putting all this out here, what if I don't sell anything? And to start off with, there were several days where I didn't sell anything, but towards the end of the season, every day something was bought. And that was just really encouraging, knowing that people wanted what I had to offer, and so it kept me going. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the investment in my family and helping us to lower our own grocery bills and to offset some of the costs of the garden for us. And so I hope going forward that you'll continue to support us, and we will be back in the spring as I continue to learn more. I really appreciate all of you who are watching my channel and encouraging me. Once again, I really struggle with putting myself out there, but I've only had positive comments from people, and it really encourages me to keep going and to share my homesteading life. But I really appreciate you watching, and I will try to keep sharing what we have going forward. We actually have a property of 5 acres. We don't live on that property, but it's really close to us, and we have all sorts of dreams and plans and hopes for that property. And so I will show you a clip of what we were doing yesterday and cleaning out some of it that had been a lot for my father-in-law's cattle, and he moved them out, and so we're cleaning it up because we'd like to be able to mow it next year to kind of keep the weeds can really get out of hand really quick if you can't do something to maintain it. And so we were cleaning it out, moving a bunch of tin and branches and old fence posts and things to clean it up so that it'll be mowable next year. And so I'll just keep sharing what we do. It'll be less this winter, but there'll still be projects like planting the garden and things like that. So I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. And I doubt through the winter I'll do videos every week, but I'll do them when I come up with something that I think is interesting to you guys. Thanks so much. Bye.